Hey guys, it's Jim Halterman. I'm here in Los Angeles. I'm on a work trip right now. But one of the things I've been doing regularly for years actually is I check in with my brother and just ask him health questions or health advice or why does this hurt or what should I do here? And we're both approaching 60. I'm going to be 60 in January. So I just thought maybe it would be a good time to actually talk about this with you guys watching so we can share some of this information. My brother does know things. So let me introduce him. It's Mike Halterman. He's the manager of cardiac and pulmonary rehab program in North Carolina. Hey, brother.
Hey, what's going on?
And he's at his work. That's not a fake background. It looks very cool. Because Mike helps people who are either have gone through a lot of health issues, pretty much everything related to the heart, correct?
Heart or lung.
Okay.
So a rehab program. So anyone who's had a heart procedure or surgery, or someone that's having pulmonary issues, whether doctors uh, referred them to pulmonary rehab.
Yeah.
We help people recover from whatever they've gone through and to help prevent future issues down the road, and just live healthier lives with confidence.
That's good. And I've noticed, and I'm sure you have too, like as we've gotten older and we're now at the end of our 50s, like there's certain things that we're feeling differently about. And I know, like, it's that thing you always heard about when you were younger about, like, oh, I woke up and all of a sudden this hurts and I don't know why. And those little
Yeah,
things. And other things like I've gone hiking a couple times since I've been here, and all of a sudden it kind of inflamed my plantar fasciitis.
kind of
Um,
fasciitis. Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, you said it correctly. I can't quite say it right. But thankfully, I'm staying with some people that know physical fitness very well. So Terry was giving me some good exercises to do and,
Oh, good.
icing and all those things. But let me just ask you a couple questions because I think people are going to want to know this because I think there's a lot of things we can be doing even before we realize, oh, we're overweight or I'm out of breath when I climb stairs or things like that. First of all, just how much should we listen to our bodies? Because sometimes you can get kind of paranoid thinking this and that, but other times maybe it's telling you stuff that you should know. But what would you say about how we listen to our bodies?
Yeah, I think being kind of real with yourself and listening to your body is very important because usually your body's going to give you some kind of warning sign that something's going on, and it may be something like your plantar fasciitis. That's kind of a known thing, but it also could be something that is a little more vague, that you don't know about. Like it could be like, from a heart standpoint, not everyone, but most people will have some kind of symptoms before they have maybe a heart attack or they survive it. Some people don't. But usually, if you listen to your body and you get help right away, in some cases it can be life saving.
Yeah.
It could be something that's not as critical like your plantar fasciitis, but um, like when the heart's an example because I work in that environment. Um, Usually people will have symptoms. A lot of times they'll just lay down and think, oh, I'll be fine if I just lay down and rest. Usually your body's going to, if it's giving you some kind of warning sign, you need to pay attention to it. If you do that and get the help you need, then, you won't have any further issues. But if you don't, then something bad could happen. Another example is somebody that maybe has a long flight and they land and they get a lot of pain in their calves or in their lower extremities. Could be dealing with a blood clot. Again, it's better to get checked out if you're not sure. Otherwise, your risk for more critical issues could go up.
And I know something about being on long flights and having a blood clot, which I had many years
Yeah.
ago, and thankfully it was the only time. And my body was telling me things because what I did is I did a long trip from LA to South Africa, and it wasn't immediate, but it was a long flight, and I probably didn't think about getting up and moving around or drinking a lot of water during the flight. I just was trying to sleep on the flight. But then, like
Right.
a month or two after I returned, that's when literally I was having a hard time climbing the one flight of stairs to our apartment. And if I walked up a little bit of a hill, I was just like, why am I out of breath? And I kind of was like, maybe it's just allergies because LA's has a lot of allergies. And then
Yeah.
it really, what I was very lucky because my leg, I went on a trip then to New York for work and my legs started to kind of blow up and it was very kind of pink and I didn't know
Mhm.
exactly what was happening. And I elevated it when I got back to my hotel at night, and then it went away, and then it would come back again. And so
Okay.
I finally was like, I should probably go see somebody before I get on another plane to come home. And thankfully, like I walked in wearing shorts and the guy looked at me right away. He's like, that looks like a blood clot because he could see it was just from the knee
Uh-huh.
down, was very swollen, very pink. And I had never experienced it, so I didn't really know. And so they got me in right away and took care of me, put me on medication. I didn't need an operation, but
Hmm.
I'm glad they recognized it even if I didn't. And I probably waited longer than I should have. Maybe as soon as I start having like breathing issues. I did go to the doctor actually, and they did like a breathing test. And they're like, "You're fine. It's probably just allergy." They didn't check my leg, and at that point I wasn't having leg issues.
Right.
But anyway, that's my
Yeah.
experience with that since you brought it up.
But so that example, had you not done anything, and waited longer,
Yeah,
that's where you run into the risk of one of those clots in your legs traveling to your lungs, and then you have a pulmonary embolus, and that the
yeah.
survival rate of one of those is very low.
Yeah, so
So,
I'm glad I did too. I did feel like maybe I should have checked in on this earlier, but I wasn't having the leg blowing up until I got to New York, and I was on my feet all day because I was doing like press interviews and things.
yeah.
So thankfully, I recovered, and I still, wear compression socks on flights, or if I know I'm going to be on my
Hmm.
feet a lot, I'll put them on, and I think it does make a difference, and I end up feeling better. What parts of our bodies should we be kind of attentive to as we get older? Because you kind of think about exercising or working out, but is there a specific body part we should maybe focus on just thinking about our older age?
Yeah, so we know general exercise is just good for our hearts, good for our bodies and everything.
Mhm.
But one thing that does happen, you don't realize it because you're younger and mobile and not having as many issues. But after about age 25, your muscles, and if you don't do anything about it, your muscles naturally get weaker as you age, and you can counter that by doing some strength training. But what I've seen a lot of is people that don't do that, and they get to us, in their older age, and they have trouble getting out of a chair, getting up off the couch, and talked to somebody yesterday who's having trouble getting off the toilet. It sounds really simple, but doing some strength training regularly, like 2 or 3 times a week, not on consecutive days, can help you to improve or maintain your leg strength, so that as you get older, things like that don't become more of a chore, and you're able to do more things that you want to do. We're all living longer. The expected life age goes up, um, but then your people are sicker. If they're living older, they're not doing things to keep themselves fit enough to
Uh,
be able to have quality years as they get older. And that's one thing I'm concerned about right now, as I near retirement, is I want to be able to do a lot of active things.
yeah,
So,
like even Boyd and I do yoga 3 nights a week, and it's not a super intense yoga for like an hour. It's maybe 20 to 30 minutes, but I noticed that like it does help my core. Like I can do the tree pose and I can
uh-huh.
balance myself on one foot for, a limited amount of time, but I can do it. And I figured these are kind of little things that are just going to help because if I wasn't doing that, I probably would lose a lot of that core strength because I'm not, if I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it could be squats, it could be machine weights for your legs.
Yeah.
For our older patients, we do a sit to stand exercise where you go from sitting to standing repeatedly.
Yeah.
Just repeating that exercise is using your own weight as resistance instead of equipment. So it's something people can do at home.
And I think whether you're young enough to still be employed or you're retired but maybe have a busy life, sometimes you kind of forget to fit in time to exercise or to think about your diet. How important is that consistency if you kind of, it comes in waves instead
Oh,
of just being straight across? Talk about that a little bit.
my original background is exercise physiology. So coming from an exercise standpoint, the most important part of exercise is consistency. um, Doing it, whatever you're doing on a regular basis, is so important. So it could be a low intensity, it could be a higher intensity, but you can't do it sporadically. Your body can lose, especially as you get older. We're noticing this, that it
Yeah.
takes more effort to get in good shape, and it takes less time to lose it if you go on a vacation or just get out of the habit for a while. So the consistency is the most important thing, and then after that, it's looking at, like how hard you're working, what you're doing, how long you're doing it, those
Yeah.
kind of things, all the different components of an exercise program. Another thing to stress is that your aerobic type exercise you do on equipment or walking, jogging, biking, those things, and strength training kind of work together. You don't want to just do one or the other and think that you're covering everything. You really need to do both.
I'm going to ask you about stretching when you exercise because I'm typically pretty good about stretching before I do something for 5 minutes, 10
Right?
minutes. I mean, just at least to get a little loose.
Yeah.
But I'm not always good at after. Is that okay, or is that
Yeah.
am I screwing myself over if I not to
No, I
stretching as
mean,
much after?
there's some stretching you can do, some dynamic stretching at the beginning of, before you start exercise, and it actually helps you get looser,
Yeah,
to do whatever you're doing better. But you need to do some kind of warm up before, like you don't just want to stretch muscle that's cold, that hasn't been warmed up, because you're more likely to injure it.
right.
But doing like a 5 or 10 minute walk, or like yesterday, I got on a stationary bike for 5 to 10 minutes before I did some stretching that I needed to do. That's real important to warm up first before you do any of that. But after exercise, that's when your muscles are really tight. That's when you need to do more of the static type stretching. I don't know, reaching for your toes and holding that stretch, for 20, 30 seconds, something like that. So it's okay to do it at the beginning and the end, but especially at the end. In my situation, I've got some back problems and some arthritis that's coming on. So if I don't stretch after I exercise, I really notice it, especially the next
Okay.
day. I'm very stiff. Um, and so it really helps to keep your muscles healthy.
And how
Yeah.
much does water impact all of what you just said? Because
Yeah.
we know people, I know people in my life and then even in our family that don't love drinking water.
Yeah.
And I drink a lot of water. Like I have my cup of water here and I always have
Uh-huh.
water nearby, but I think I've learned that over time. It's not something I did when I was younger. I lived on Mountain Dew and
Right.
and soda, and then as I got older drinking more coffee, but now I'm like, no, I need to
Yeah.
drink a lot of water. But can you talk about just water intake and how much should we
Yeah.
have a day, and how can you make it a habit to just always be having water in your hand?
Yeah. You can get away with a ton of stuff when you're younger, right?
Yeah.
Um, but as you get older, most people don't naturally drink enough water. It's something that most people have to make an effort to do. But you can make reminders on your phone. I think I've got something that like mid-morning triggers me to just kind of make myself, look at how much have I had already, and how am I doing, So if nothing else, it's just a reminder to check on that. But for when we talked about muscles a few minutes ago, your muscles need water to be healthy. If your muscles get dehydrated, they're going to spasm very easily. When you get very dehydrated, you can lose potassium and sodium, which are involved with muscle contraction. So if those numbers get out of whack, you're much more easily to have spasm and injury. So good muscle health requires that you maintain proper hydration. So
Okay.
proper hydration would be, it depends on the size of the person, but usually anywhere from 64 to 88 ounces. For
Okay.
somebody who's like an athlete, it may be like 100 ounces a day. And that's assuming that your doctor doesn't have you on some kind of water restrictions. Like for
Okay.
someone that has congestive heart failure, they have to really monitor how much fluid they're taking in. For a general person, like 64 ounces would be a good goal. The other thing that's really important when it comes to hydration is your blood is primarily made up of water. If you get dehydrated, that means that the blood volume is going to go down
Mm.
in your body. And if the blood volume goes down, then your blood pressure is going down. If you think of a small diameter garden hose, the pressure is going to be very high. But if the hose is bigger, there's less pressure in there, less volume. And so somebody, especially with that takes blood pressure medication, if they get dehydrated, the effects are going to be accelerated because the blood pressure is already being kept, in check. And if they get dehydrated, then you could really have a problem. And if your blood pressure gets low and you're not getting oxygen and blood flow up to your brain, you're more likely to pass out, and that's never a good thing.
Okay. And I am somebody that's taken blood pressure medication for 30 years because it's
Yeah.
genetic, and my doctor put me on medication early because he said, let's take care of this now so you're not having a heart attack at 40.
That's a real important thing also to add on is you can't feel what your blood pressure is. So
Yeah.
somebody could have really high blood pressure and not have any idea. So when you get a chance in your drugstore or wherever you are to get just a little quick check to see what it's doing, do it, because you
Yeah.
could be walking around with really high blood pressure for a long time, and that just increases the amount of stress that the heart's under and what it's pushing against.
Yeah, I feel like maybe you were still even in school when you would tell me like, oh, they call it the silent killer because
Yeah,
you don't know what's happening in it, but it's slowly working your body harder and making everything
yeah,
work bad.
yeah.
So,
So your heart, when your heart contracts and pushes blood flow through the body, if the blood pressure is high, that means that there's more resistance that the heart is pumping against,
yeah,
and so that stress on the heart is, we don't want stress on the heart.
yeah,
Stress on the heart is going to accumulate over time and not lead to good things. So it's much better to decrease stress on the heart anytime we can.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
we've talked about this over the years, and I've actually taken action based on things you've told me about just being looking at preventative measures to either go see people before I feel bad.
yeah.
There's a lot of things that, especially men, as they get older, need to be doing, whether it's colonoscopies or other things like that. But can you talk about that a little bit, like preventative things instead of waiting for something to go wrong?
You still see this in the medical community where people wait until you have a problem to
Yeah,
do something. And when I know people that are shopping for a new physician, I tell them to find somebody that's going to be proactive and aggressive and
yeah,
not just wait until something's wrong, to do something. So screenings you can do, you mentioned the colon screenings, the prostate screening, skin cancer screening, those are things you need to do. Um, because if you don't, and all of a sudden you have a prostate problem or you have skin cancer, if you let those things kind of develop over time, it can get into something really critical and dangerous. If you remember when we were younger, we used to go to a lake in Michigan and we would be out in the sun and not putting
yeah,
on anything and just getting sunburn and suntans, and we thought it looked cool. And but that all of that is somehow, I can't speak to it from a professional standpoint, but it's cumulative over time
yeah,
and will lead to people having skin cancer if you're exposed to the sun like that, even when you're younger.
yeah.
So staying on top of things, getting screenings is, it takes extra time, but it's really important to do that because you can really prevent serious problems by staying ahead of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's why a couple of years ago I was coming up on the age of 57, which is the age where our mother passed away of a heart attack. And today's actually her birthday. It's ironic that we're
Hmm.
talking on her birthday.
Yeah,
But I remember I asked my regular doctor about it, and he goes, "Well, go see a cardiologist. Just, for insurance sake, you might want to say you're having like some palpitations or something, because then, for insurance, because they're not going to cover it if you just say, oh, I just
yeah,
want to go take some tests." But I
right.
did, and actually, like he had me wear a heart monitor for I think a couple days or a couple weeks. I think I only wear it a couple days because it got really itchy
Yeah,
with the tape. But still, he was able to get a good enough reading, and thankfully, the news was good. He's like, your heart is very strong. Everything's flowing as it should, and everything was good. But I'm really glad I did that, and it was partly
yeah,
because you mentioned it, but also I was thinking, well, I'm the age our mother was, and granted, I've never been a smoker like she was, and all that.
right.
But I'm like, that doesn't mean that something's not passed on. But thankfully, I did that, and my mind's always been calm about it. It's been a while now, so I'm like,
Yeah,
maybe another 5 or 10 years, I should do that again, just because my body's
yeah.
changing.
Well, I remember, I think he was very comprehensive. Like, didn't he give you like an echo or stress test or
Yeah,
something
yeah, he did all
like
that.
that as well? So,
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with asking your doctor for that. Like, hey, I'm getting older, especially, and you would think, knowing that you have a family history, that your provider would say, I think we should do a stress test. You're getting to that age.
yeah,
And sometimes they don't. And so you really have to be your own advocate. There's so much information out there, and some of it, the internet, there's so much information. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. It's hard to know what to trust, but there's so much information out there you can learn about what do you need to be doing, but having somebody like that that's thinking, down the road and in your best interest is huge.
okay. So those are like all the planned questions. I thought of one question to throw at you, which I didn't tell you I was going to do, but it's not a hard one.
Okay.
But since you're in the industry, I know you're very active and you stay fit and like you're doing a lot of things. What do you think you could do better? Either physically, emotionally, anything. Like, what do you think you could be doing better for your health right now?
I think variety of
Hmm.
exercise. I like the mountain bike a lot,
Yeah.
and so it's like riding the roller coaster you can control. It's so much fun to me.
Mm.
So when my bike is broken, like it is this week, and I'm not on the trails, um, it's like an extra effort to make myself do something
Uh-huh.
different.
Yeah.
So, and when you do something different, you're working different muscles. So this is something I've been trying to do at least once a week, do something different. Like on Mondays, this past Monday, I went for a hike at
Yeah.
the Whitewater Center, which is here in Charlotte. It's got
Hmm.
a lot of trails. And I just said, well, instead of biking, I'll go for a hike. And it was interesting how, as much cycling as I do, I got done with that hike, and the next day I felt it in my legs. So that
Yeah.
right there, that tells me, I'm working the same muscles in the same ways. I need to mix it up because your muscles need that. We call it kind of like muscle confusion.
Yeah.
Your muscles have a memory, so they kind of get good at whatever you're doing the most of. And to really keep them healthy and dynamic, you really should do a variety of things to work them in different ways
Okay.
for just good overall health. We've talked a lot about exercise, but one thing it's very important, especially in my world here in rehab, is eating the right way,
Yeah.
eating healthfully. And I'm not a dietitian, but eating a balanced diet, um, you know, um, I think most people, I hope, either have access to or know what they're supposed to do. Vegetables, fruit, limit fried foods, but just eating right is, I think, very important as well, especially as you get older, because it's something again that you can get away with when you're younger,
Right.
but when you're older, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I realize I can't
So
always eat what I want to eat. I kind of have to make choices like what I should have. Like, oh, I haven't had vegetables today, so I should make sure I have like a good portion for
yeah,
dinner.
and it's okay to to have some ice cream once in a while or something like that. The key is to not try to justify it all the time. Like it really
Yeah.
should, you should minimize that sort of thing, and that way it makes it a little more enjoyable when you do have it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Good advice. I hear your voice in my head a lot when I'm thinking like, okay, what should I do? Because I really want this, but I could make a healthy choice and it's
right,
good in the long run. All right.
yeah,
Well, thanks so much for the chat. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day and
yeah,
sharing a lot of information. I think a lot of people will get a lot out of. So thank you,
sure.
brother.
Glad to help, brother.
Okay. All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Mike.
All right, see you, buddy.